Hello and welcome to ReginaldESQ. I'm Underhook and this is my review of the Tier 5 German medium tank, the Pz.Kpfw.IV. So, is it any good? Oh yeah, this is a great tank. Very impressed with this tank. It has great camouflage, good gun depression, and a gun that hits like a heavy tank gun. It's a very good tank. Let's get into the review, but as I start the review, let me say this. There are a lot of Tier 5 medium tanks. There's 13 of them. Of those 13, 6 of them are premium tanks. The premium tanks have sort of different characteristics in a way to the regular tanks, or most of them do. So I'm kind of going to tell you how the stats compare to the other tanks, then sort of how they compare to premium. Just break it up a little bit to make it more sense. I hope it works. Anyway, let's have a look at it. It has 480 hit points, which is the equal highest of any of the non-premium tanks, and it shares that honor with the Chi-Nu, which also has 480. Now, in the premium tanks, there's a couple of others like the Chi-Nu Kai and the M4A2E4, which also have 480. But there's also about 4 of the premium tanks that have 610 hit points, which is way above everybody else. So, of the non-premiums, if you're someone like me who doesn't really buy premium tanks much, then yeah, it's very good hit points. And look, the lowest of the hit points would probably be the Pz.Kpfw.IV, which is about 440. So the hit points, it's quite healthy hit points. Weight-wise, this tank weighs in at 26 tons, which is average for a Tier 5 medium tank. The speed of 40 kilometers an hour in forward and 18 kilometers an hour in reverse is actually quite slow compared to other medium tanks. The only one slower is the Chi-Nu with 39 kilometers an hour in forward. However, the acceleration, or the initial acceleration of this tank, is quite good. It gets up to 30 kilometers an hour quite quickly. And for a tank where you want to be popping up and taking a shot and popping back again, that's probably the main consideration. And when it says 40 kilometers an hour, it takes a little while to get from 30 to 40. But it does get to 40 on the flat. In fact, it actually does more like 41 on the flat. So the figures are generous. Are not generous, sorry. They're conservative. So it does do a little better, even with the heavier second turret on. So it does get around. It is mobile, and you don't need a lot of speed in this tank. You just need enough to be able to flank, and it's got enough. The track traverse, however, on this tank is pretty slow at 32. The only one slower is the premium T25 that has a 30. Everyone else has more, in fact quite a bit more. So the track traverse on this tank is slow. However, fortunately the turret traverse is pretty good and is about average for Tier 5 medium. So it's the turret traverse kind of makes up for it. And with this tank, your ability to stay hidden helps. The view range of 350 isn't great and is probably on the lower side of average. The signal range though of 710 meters is pretty darn good, and the only one that's better is the M7. Camouflage wise, as I was just hinting to, this tank is very good. The only Tier 5 medium that has better camouflage than this is the premium Pz.Kpfw.IV. Everything else has poorer camouflage than this tank. It's probably fairly similar to the Chinese Type T-34 and thereby also the Russian T-34, because they're pretty much the same tank. So it's similar to those, probably just a little bit better than those. So it's not a huge tank, even with this extra armor plating on the outside. It's still not that big, and it does camouflage quite well. Now, gun depression wise, the gun depression on this tank is on the upper side of average. It has 10 degrees of gun depression and 20 degrees of elevation. Now, at Tier 4, 10 degrees of gun depression was only average because a lot of tanks have very good gun depression. But at Tier 5, some of them start to get a bit not so good. So 10 degrees is on the upper side of average. However, that said, there's a couple of premium tanks that have very good gun depression, such as the Pz.Kpfw.IV and the Matilda Black Prince. Pz.Kpfw.IV having 14 degrees of gun depression and Black Prince having 12.5 degrees of gun depression. In the non-premium tanks, there's only one tank that has better gun depression, and that's the M4 with 12 degrees. There are a couple of others with a few others with 10 degrees, and then the rest are sort of lower. But for this tank, the 10 degrees works out very, very well. Now, let's talk about the grind for this tank. It's not really a grind, it's pretty easy. Now, the tracks really give you 2 degrees of better traverse. You do need it, and you do need it. The engine, I went straight to the top engine and straight to the top radio simply because they are already unlocked for me because of the other tanks I've had. So I can't tell you if the engine upgrade is really worth it, but on paper it gives you 33% more power, so it should make a difference, but we all know with water tanks it doesn't always work that way. The first couple of guns you get, the first one is the same gun that you had on the Panzer IV-D. Then you can upgrade to this one here, which has slightly better penetration, same rate of fire. So it goes from 103 to 110 pen, and with premium it goes from 139 to 158 pen, and exactly the same damage of 110. The HE does the same damage as well. The accuracy is improved to 0.39. I think it was actually 0.42 in the Panzer IV-D. I think it's a little bit better when it's in this tank. And I think the aiming time was 2.5 in the Panzer IV-D, and this gun improves to 2.3. And it's the same with this gun, 2.3. The accuracy is a bit better. It works actually okay. Surprisingly, the extra 7 mils of penetration makes a bit of a difference in this tank, and it's actually just a better tank anyway. But I believe you definitely want to go for this gun because it's just so much fun. I'm going to explain this gun in a minute and compare it with guns from a couple of other tanks, but let me just tell you about the turret. As you will have seen, if you haven't seen this tank before, it has some heavy plating armor on the outside and also has some plating armor on the upgraded turret. It's not on the stock turret, but on the upgraded turret it does have the extra plating around the outside. That's designed to reduce the damage from heat ammunition and HE ammunition, and it does reduce the damage. It doesn't eliminate it though. It probably should in some circumstances actually eliminate the damage, but it just reduces it. So view range goes from 340 to 350 upgraded turret. It also adds 400 kilograms of weight, which will slow you down a little bit. Fortunately though, it doesn't slow down the traverse speed. It stays at 44, which is great. The armor values showing on here are the same, 50, 30, 30, 50, 30, 30, but that doesn't include the extra spaced armor around the outside of the turret. And I'll go into that in Tank Inspector. Let's have a look at the guns now. Alright, so here I've got the gun on the right here is the L28 gun, the howitzer derp style gun from the Panzer IV-H, which we're reviewing today. In the middle here I have the gun from the Wolverine, the Panzer derpy gun, and the Panzer derpy gun from the KV-1, which is a heavy tank on the left. So I thought we might compare these a little bit. We can see that the gun in the Wolverine is very similar. It has they're both 105mm. The Wolverine has a better rate of fire at 7.69 versus 7.5 in the Panzer IV-H, although 7.5 is still quite a good rate of fire for such a powerful gun. I'm very happy with it. They have exactly the same penetration, so 53 on the HE ammunition for both guns, and 410 damage for both guns. And this is a whopping amount of damage. It is awesome. If you actually manage to penetrate the armor, you can do the full 410 damage. So if you hit a tier 3 or tier 4 tank, especially a medium or a light, you're just going to blow them away with a single shot. Now, if you decide to use premium ammo, on the Wolverine had 101 mils of pen with 350 damage, slightly more penetration on the Panzer IV-H 104, only 3 mils, and the same damage of 350. So pretty much the same damage-wise between the two guns. The Wolverine does have slightly better accuracy of 0.53 versus 0.55 on paper. I'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. The Wolverine has vastly better aiming time of 1.7 versus 2.3 on the Panzer IV-H. And I think a good upgrade, I haven't done it yet, but a good upgrade on the Panzer IV-H might be a gun lane drive to speed up that aiming time a little bit. I've got vents fitted, but I'm thinking about putting a gun lane drive because I'm definitely going to keep this tank. Now, the difference though is the Wolverine has a very slow turret traverse of around 16 or 18 degrees versus 44 on this tank. Because it is a turreted tank destroyer, the Wolverine, so it has a very slow traverse. So you really need a fast aiming time because it takes you so long to turn your gun towards the tank anyway. Whereas this gun, your turret gets to point at the tank very quickly. So the slower aiming time actually doesn't feel as slow as it would on a Wolverine. Now let's compare it to the Panzer, to KV-1. KV-1 has very good penetration of 61 on its HE, and instead of doing 350 damage, does 450 damage, which is truly awesome. And that's 61 versus 53 pen, and it does 140 pen on its heat ammunition with 370 damage versus 350. So once again, awesome damage. And rate of fire though is quite a bit slower at 5.26, and its accuracy of 0.57 is a little bit worse on paper, but substantially worse in reality. And the aiming time of 2.9 is very slow, and it does once again has a slower traversing turret than our Panzer IV-H. So you really need it to have a quick aiming time, but it actually has a slower aiming time. Now, you really have to get close with the KV-1 because of the slow aim time, slow turret traverse, and it's not a fast maneuverable tank, it's a slow tank being a heavy. So most of the time when you encounter another heavy tank, it's facing you because it knows you're there because you've got poor camouflage and you're slow. But the thing with this Panzer IV-H is you can outflank tanks, and when you approach heavies you can get their sides and their back, especially mediums from the side, and you can smash them. Now in the Panzer IV-D, when you shot at someone, they looked at you and they just drove straight at you because they said, you've got no armor, your gun's slow, you can't aim very well, you don't turn very well, I'm just going to drive at you. Drive around the side, you go bang 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 and you're dead. In this tank, you hit them and they go, holy crap, I want to escape. They don't come at you because they know your turret turns well and they know you reload pretty quick, and if you hit them again they're dead. Tanks, it's like driving, it reminds me of the KV-1S. When you hit someone, even though they know you've got a slow reload, most people who aren't very experienced just run away. So this is the advantage of this tank. I do better in this tank than the KV-1, even though the KV-1 in theory does more damage, because the KV-1 you're firing at the front of tanks because everyone knows you're there. The Panzer IV-H, you surprise people and blast them from the sides of rear, and you're actually doing more damage per shot because you're hitting thinner armor. Alright, let's get into Tank Inspector and have a look. But yeah, game play style that wise, that's how this tank works. Outflank, pop up from bushes and over ridges, and hit people in the sides and rear, and you'll smash them. Let's have a look at Tank Inspector and get into. I've got awesome gameplay for you. So let's have a look at the Panzer IV-H armor layout in Tank Inspector. First thing you do notice about the Panzer IV-H is the extra armor plating on the outside, the spaced armor, and on the turret. It is a very unusual looking tank. From my understanding, this armor is designed to stop HE and heat shells from doing major damage to the tank. By having the armor quite heavily spaced, as you can see, the idea is the HE hits this, because HE explodes on impact, so it explodes on this armor, and then of course all you've got is just some exploding, a bit of shrapnel hitting the side of the tank, and I think in reality is unlikely to do much damage at all. However, in the game it still does substantial damage to the tank. So if I was using this tank to fire on this tank, generally if I hit this, I still do about 130 to 150 points of damage. But if that armor plating wasn't there, I would probably do my full 350 points of damage, or 450 or whatever it is. So it does reduce the damage quite substantially, but it doesn't stop it. So if you got the side of one of these tanks and you go, oh, I won't shoot it, still shoot it. You just won't do as much as you could. On the side, of course, hitting here, there's no spaced armor on this part of the turret, so you could hit here is probably the best option. Do not go for the cupola, and we'll show you why in a minute. But yeah, hitting this sort of spaced armor is also not good. Frontally, this tank, you want to hit the front of the turret. That's your weakest spot on this tank. Let's have a look in the colorized view and all will become clear. So these red areas here, we can see are 80mm thick, which is pretty good for a tier 5 medium tank. We've actually got some armor on this tank, which is great. It is very flat, however. So if you have one of these tanks frontally and you can't accurately hit the turret with HE ammo, just hit these plates. Even though they're well armored, they're not they're very flat, and HE loves hitting a flat surface. So you'll still do pretty good damage, about 150. So if you're a KV1 with derp ammo shooting these, still shoot the front here. Or with heat ammo, you'll do quite substantial damage. But preferably hit the turret here. But for a standard tank with standard ammunition, yeah, a little bit difficult to penetrate for some of you lighter scouts. You might want to hit this 20mm here. You might be able to overmatch on it and get a penetration. Especially if you're elevated to this tank, shooting down on this will be very effective. If you angle this tank, you will get substantially more out of the armor. As you can see there, equivalent is coming up as 125, 130. However, the sides are pretty weak. The armor underneath here is only 30mm thick, so the sides are very, very weak. The spaced armor isn't that thick, it's only 5mm. It's not designed to stop armor piercing shells, it's designed to stop HE and heat, or reduce the damage from HE and heat. So it's from armor piercing shells, the side is easily penetrated. Now, the rear of the tank is only 20mm thick and is very easily penetrated as well. Now let's have a look at the turret. Well, it's 50mm thick, which isn't terrible. It's not bad, and you can bounce some shots from tier 3 and tier 4 auto cannon firing tanks. Not too bad. The mandlet is pretty much the same at 50mm. So anywhere around here is for tier 4, so tier 4 mediums and heavies and above tier 4. Really, that's where you want to shoot, is the front of the turret. You're going to penetrate pretty well. If this tank is hulled down though, don't shoot the cupola. It's 95mm thick. It is the single strongest part of this tank, and I love it. You go hull down, people think, I'll ping his cupola. Guess what? Bounce, bounce, bounce. It's really, really good, and that's if they hit the middle. If they hit the side of it, look at that, 166 equivalent. Very hard for tanks to hit you. This tank works great, popping over hills and popping back. You will bounce quite a few shots off your cupola. And I've even had my whole tank over the hill, backing away, and had to angle on the way back. Like I usually, when I'm backing up, I turn as I back up, because if you're front on, they see you, they start aiming at the front. If you turn as you back off, they try and keep their aim at the front usually, and all of a sudden your armor values increase substantially. I've even bounced T29s off the front of this, angling it. A bit lucky though. Don't expect to bounce it, but you will bounce some shots. The side of the turrets though are very weak. You've only got 30mm on the side and the rear of the turret. On the rear though, you do have a bit of spaced armor, which helps a little bit. It's 8mm on the turret, which is a bit stronger than it is on the side of the tank, but not that great. But these couple of areas near the hatch are thicker. 16mm of spaced armor. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because they know everyone's going to aim for the hatch, so they make the armor near the hatch in case you slightly miss a bit thicker. I don't understand it, but it doesn't help that much. Alright, that's the armor. Other than the top deck, I'll show you in case you're using artillery. 10mm on the back deck. 11mm whoopie-doodads on the rest of the deck and the front. Top of the turret, 16mm, which actually is not too bad. And the very top here, 25mm. And the top of the cupola is only 8mm. So they've kind of played around with the armor a fair bit. Let's have a look at some fantastic gameplay.
Time to roll out.
Alright, the map is, I think it's called Sand River. It's a tier 5 game, and we're in our tier 4 medium, the Pz.Kpfw.IV. As you can see, there's another Pz.Kpfw.IV on our team, and there's 2 on the other team. Seeing a lot of these tanks around means there's probably a good tank. Now, this is an ideal game. There's only 2 heavies on the enemy team, so that's 2 tanks I may have a bit of trouble penetrating. All the rest I can penetrate. The tank destroyers frontally can be hard, but side shots no problem. So it's a good matchup for this tank, and this is going to be a very good game. Bear in mind, in this game my crew is 81% trained, except for the commander, who is 100%. So we're moving to a position where we can utilise our gun depression of 10 degrees, and where I can hopefully shoot tanks from not at long range, because, you know, 0.55 accuracy, it's a derp gun, we don't want to be too far away. Alright, we've spotted someone. Actually, there's a couple of tanks there. Matilda, side shot, thank you very much. As you can see, 153. And Matilda, I think, has a little bit of spaced armor on the side. I can't remember if it's spaced or not, so that was still pretty impressive damage. front of a Matilda, 174, and I think that was the front of the turret. Now that's pretty well armoured, so you can see that the gun still does well. And how's the accuracy? Now that one dropped short, but it was still going straight line. Now we got hit by the KV-1 there. We don't want that to happen too much. I can't actually even see the KV-1 that's shooting at us. I had a look at shooting at the T-14, but I decided it was better to actually eliminate Matilda first, even though, you know, he didn't have many hit points left. Now I'm going to go for this T-14, and that one missed. But you know what? For 0.55 accuracy, the amount of time I spent aiming, that's not bad. I didn't fully aim it, I don't think. This time I will fully aim it, and we get a hit in. Got hit by the KV-1 again. This time he's using APCR ammo, because he did bounce one off me, I think, earlier. So I don't want to pop out there again, because I can't afford to take another hit from that KV-1. I'm less than half health. As you can see, this Lux has popped in there. I just couldn't get my gun turned on him in time, so someone else got that kill. The KV-1 there has been killed, I think, maybe by artillery. So I don't want to hang around there. Now what you're going to see here is, like I said in the review, I think it's 0.55 accuracy of this gun. It's not. It's much more accurate than they say. Bear in mind, my crew, like I said, I think in this game it's 81% trained. The shots that I'm pulling off, no way 81, no way 55%, 55 accuracy. If you had told me this gun had 0.40 accuracy, after playing the game I would have gone, oh yeah, it's about right. So, yeah, it's better than it is on paper, that's for sure. Look at this M7. So he is 391 meters away, and we've got a hit there. He's tracked. Unfortunately, he starts moving again, and that shot misses, but geez, it was close, and it went pretty much where we aimed it. Now, I said I'd for those of you who haven't played much World of Tanks, if you're pretty new to the game, with HE ammunition, it's or HE type guns, it's much harder to hit moving targets because the shell velocity is very slow, so it takes a long time for the shell to get there. The other thing that makes it hard to hit moving targets is that the shell travels in a very high arc and sort of comes down on top of tanks rather than hitting them from the side like an AP shell normally does. So because of that, in a normal armor piercing shell, when a tank is moving, you just basically aim in front of the tank, pretty much in the same spot you would aim if the tank was there, and just lead the tank and fire, and the tank hopefully runs into your shell. With a HE shell it's different. If you do that, you will actually be aiming at a point past the tank. Is tracked 258 meters, and there you go. So both those hits, we ended up doing a total of, what did we do? 283 damage to the M7 heavy tank. There you go. So yeah, if you actually aim like you do with an AP shell, you will actually fire way above the tank when it passes in front of. Even if you are accurate and it lined up with the tank, it'll go way above it because you're actually aiming at a point past the tank. Because it has a high arc, it'll try and reach that point past the tank by going over it, and it'll actually pass over the tank you're aiming at. So with a HE shell, you need to predict where the tank is moving to and aim at the ground that the tank is going to drive over, rather than aiming at a point past the tank and which it's going to drive through. With AP, you have to, with a HE shell, you have to aim where the tank, the ground the tank will drive over. If you did that with an AP shell, you would end up probably just hitting their track and doing no damage. But when you do it with a HE shell, the shell actually comes down on top of their tank, and it's much easier to hit moving targets if you do that. Aim at the ground in front of them, and hopefully you still got to lead the tank. So it is more difficult, but you'll get a lot more hits on moving tanks if you aim that way. Wolverine on low health, easy kill, poor armor from the side. So what I'm attempting to do now is, there's a lot of their enemy tanks are going for the cap. Here I'm just using it to blow out some cover. As you can see, Good gun depression. I'm not exposing much of my tank other than the turret. Waiting for a shot. And a little bit lucky on the side of the stug there. But as you can see, 204 damage is damn good damage. I pull up now to this bush to have a look. Now I haven't got 6th sense, but I'm doing right. This Pz.Kpfw.IV though has spotted me. So I shoot without aiming fully, and the shot goes wild. But I didn't want to get risk getting hit by him. I'm pretty sure he's got the derp gun like me. Here we look here, he's got the spaced armor on his turret. So aiming for the center of his turret, remember the unprotected part, and we do 184 damage. And like I said, the accuracy of this gun. Now here, I'm waiting for him to move into my range, so that if he did stop to aim at me, I would be fully aimed before he aimed. Anyway, we hit him in the side. 63 is enough. As you can see, that was the spaced armor we hit on the side. It doesn't stop HE, it only reduces the damage. So we are on, folks, 6 kills. Top gun, woohoo! Told you it was a good game. The enemy only has, we were down actually, but now the enemy only has 3 tanks to our 4, so now we're up. Yippee. Now, like I said, I haven't got 6th sense, but the camouflage seems to be holding up pretty well on this tank. They are capping. I'm looking for the tank in the cap, but I can't spot him. Still looking for him, but these other tanks here have been spotted, so I figure I'm in a good position to shoot at him. I'll just shoot at him until something becomes spotted. Hetzer, side of, oh, we've got the sort of the front. No, we've got the side of him again. And someone else hits him for most of the damage just before us, so we don't do much, only 45, but we do kill him. KV1, turret armor is very strong, so I'm going to try and hit the hull, hopefully above the tracks. And it looked like we actually hit the top deck. And he catches fire. Very lucky shot. So that actually landed on the very poorly armored top deck of the tank, and that's the high arc in our favour. So here I consider Panzer, I'm going to blow away the cover. As you can see, it's good at blowing away buildings, but it won't penetrate buildings. So you can't hit anybody behind. Take a shot there and miss. I really want to get this guy. He's the last tank on their team. Oh yeah, come on, come on. So aim at the ground, see, not at the line the tank was going to pass through, and we get the hit. Hit him in the tracks, but he still took some damage. Waiting to aim. Tell me that's .55 accuracy. That's better than .55 with an 82% crew. And end of the game. Alright, so let's have a look at the stats for that game, and you can probably see why I'm excited about this tank, and I might have sounded a bit excited during the gameplay. I'm probably just talking really fast. I've only played about 20 games in this tank, and I've got mastery in it 3 times. It's a good tank. As you can see, in this game, we got mastery, we got Top Gun, High Caliber, and Radley Walters. Let's have a look at the next screen. And we can see that we finished on top for experience, and obviously way on top for damage. And let's have a look at the next screen. So, we fired 22 shots, of which 14 were direct hits. Now, yeah, okay, you can say the gun's not that accurate, but, you know, we blew away a bit of cover, and some of those tanks we're hitting were pretty long range for a HE style gun. So, I'm not actually unhappy with that. And as you can see also, the rate of fire of this gun is pretty darn good. Now, damage-wise, we did 1,631 damage, excuse me, which for a tier 5 tank isn't bad at all. A distance of 300 meters, we actually got a couple of hits from over 300 meters, which is impressive with this sort of a gun. We received 3 hits, but we did manage to bounce one of them. One of them was from a KV1, so anytime you can bounce a KV1, it's a good day. Enemy vehicle spotted 2, damaged 9, destroyed 9. A 9 kill game. Well, that's pretty impressive. Radley Walters medal. This is only, I've played almost 15,000 games. This is only the 4th time I've ever got a Radley Walters medal. So it's a big deal for me. Damage due to assistance is a little bit there. Also got base capture points 68, or defense points, which is really nice. 36,000 income with a profit of 32,000. Not too bad. So if you're just shooting HE ammo, which I didn't shoot any HE ammo in that game, it's not too expensive. Pretty good, pretty good profit. And we managed to get 1209 raw XP, which is pretty darn good. And that gave us mastery in the tank. With premium, it came up to 1813. It was a ×2 for the first game of the day. Thank you very much. Let's have a look at another good game. I know what you're saying. You're saying, okay, on the hook. So you've shown us it does great in a tier 5 match. Radley Walters, whoopie-doo, it was tier 5. How does it perform against higher tier tanks? Fair question. So, we're in a tier 7 match. As you can see, there's quite a few tier 7s in this game. And there are 3 Pz.Kpfw.IV on our team. And there's 1 on the other team, which tells you it's a good tank. All these people would be driving it if it wasn't good. As you can see there, I couldn't get through the tank barricade. So I'm lining up this ELC AMX if I can while I'm waiting for our heavy tank to break through the barricade for us, our T29, and he does. Now we can all try and get through this little space. And I actually clipped the other track there and it actually does break. So it looks like you have to ram those barricades probably twice in this Pz.Kpfw.IV to get through, but you can get through. Now I did say in the last game that my crew was like 81% or something. I made a mistake. They were 86% trained. And they are 86% trained in this game as well. Now, I'm lining up this Cromwell. He doesn't know I'm here. 331 damage into the side of that Cromwell. Tier 6 medium, I believe it is. So, there you go. If you get the side of a medium, you can smash him. He would be spewing. Okay, so I'm trying to get up this DW2 here. He's got about 50 mils of armor. I know I can wreck him. Tier 4 heavy. Not a great tank if you've seen my review of it. I fire and hit him. I don't know how I hit him. I must have just clipped the back of him and it was enough to smash him. Lining up now on this Panzer 38 NA. Now, we didn't do any damage, just hit his tracks. He was extremely lucky. He's poorly armoured. Lining up for another shot. He actually gets one into me. I hit him for 134. I'm really surprised he didn't just explode. But I obviously was spotted while I was shooting up there. So whilst the camouflage is good, you can't just shoot and expect not to get seen. Alright, so my crew in this game is also only 81% trained, except for my commander, who's 100%. Also, the tank is fully upgraded. In that last game you saw, the Radley Walters one, my tracks were upgraded. Pz.Kpfw.IV, we shoot the front of him. We only do 94 damage because we probably hit his 80 mils of armor, but it's still not bad. Fire another one out there just in case he's still sitting there. Don't know if that hit or not yet. We can have a look at the post-game stats. Oh, I'd love to hit the side of this SU-152. Unfortunately, he moves forward again and we don't get a shot. That would have been nice. But I can tell you that it would do big damage to him if we could hit the side of him. So here, this is a perfect position for this tank. I run into that dead tank there. I wasn't looking where I was going. In that it's got hills and trees. And this is the perfect environment that you can pop over a hill into trees. Just expose a little bit of your turret. Line them up. And remember that the cupola on this tank is mega strong for a medium. So if they're lining up on your cupola, no problem, generally speaking. Alright, there's a VK. I'd love to hit the side of him. Oh, he's leaving us a little bit. We're nearly 156 damage. On that angle, considering how well he was angled, that's pretty good damage. And he's dead now. And you know, that VK is a tier 6 tank, so nothing to be sneezed at. Blowing away a bit of cover here because I'm trying to see if we can expose these other tanks, get them spotted again. I really want to get hits on them. Okay, there's that SU-152 again. Hopefully he pops out. No, he's a little bit too clever for us. And there's a T29 up there as well. Be interesting to see if we get a shot on the T29 how this gun and ammunition performs. I haven't used any premium ammo at all. I've actually, if you look at my rounds down the bottom, I have no armor piercing rounds fitted at all because they only have about 64 pen, and I don't want to accidentally load them into the gun because they're useless. Alright, mantlet, no. Let's go for his cupola. We missed. Now remember, with a high arc, if we can get one on his cupola, not many hit points left on that issue 152. No, didn't get him. Remember, because of the high arc, if you can shoot at the turret, there's a good chance you'll land on top of the turret, like that, and do 130 damage to a tier 7 heavy tank. Oops, he saw us. I'm going to get another shot in before he reloads, and again we hit the top of his turret, 97 this time. So, whilst it's not devastating a tier 7 heavy, it is damaging it. Now, we can't obviously trade with him. He did 304 hit points damage to us. But you can see that we can at least hit them and do damage. Let's see if we can hit his... Oh, no. Oh, Chinukai. Thank you, mama. 335 damage to the tier 5 premium tank. So, yeah, that's pretty good. So you can see that, you know, against other tier 5s, it's devastating. Tier 6s, it still does very well indeed. And tier 7s, it'll still do damage to a very tough tier 7 heavy, but you've got to aim at weak points. So there you see the hull I missed, unfortunately. And look, it is 326 meters. With a gun this accuracy, I'm happy if I land here. Unfortunately there, I didn't get a chance to get that shot in. But you can see it was a green indicator. So the sides of the tank, you can do good damage, and the top weak areas you can do good damage. So once again, that was mastery again in the tank, and we also got the Confederate badge as well. So it does do well in tier 7 matches, but I don't want you to think it's a miracle tank. I have had situations where I fired at the side of T29s and done no damage at all. And not hitting the tracks, just hitting the top, the side armor and done nothing, which really it should have, because it's, showing a green indicator on it. But, so sometimes it doesn't work. But generally speaking, on the heavies tier 7, if you can hit the weak points, you will do some damage, round about 100. And look, hey, that's great. 2 tiers above, you can still do damage. And it is, as you saw, pretty sneaky tank, fairly maneuverable, good acceleration down low, and you get sneaky shots. And the gun is, like I say, I think that's way more accurate than it is on paper, particularly when you consider the crews, because I can't wait to see how good this tank is when my crew is fully upgraded. So expect to see some more games in my kick-ass gameplay section when I've finished with this. Alright, now let's have a look at the next screen. So obviously we finished on top for XP for our team, but we didn't finish on top for damage. That honour went to our T29 with 2,178. We only did 1,683 or something. Still good damage though. Next screen, but I think we got more XP obviously because we're a tier 5 tank doing that damage where he's a tier 7. Also interesting to note, the other Panzer IV did over 1,300 damage and got good XP as well. The Panzer IV on the other team didn't have a great game, but it does demonstrate though that these tanks are doing well out there. So we fired 20 shots, 11 hit. So yeah, quite a few misses, but a lot of longish range shots, and really a lot of those misses didn't miss by much. And I did blow away quite a few buildings and cover, as I usually do when I've got a gun that fires fairly rapidly. Damage of 1,683, very happy with that. And from a distance of over 300 meters, we got 848 of that for over 300 meters. So, like I say, it's more accurate than it says on paper. Hits received 3, penetrations 2, bounce. I'm not sure who he bounced, but we did bounce a shot. It might have been that, was it Panzer 38T or whatever it was. Damage block by armor 70, yeah, so it was that tank. Enemies spotted 2, damaged 8, and destroyed 2, which is a fantastic result. We also did 1,860 spotting damage, which is more than we actually did in damage. 51,000 income, which is huge. We did spend a little bit of ammo, but it was all standard ammo. I haven't fired any premium rounds in this tank, and we still made 30,000 profit. Now, I did buy one game, just so you know, I accidentally had heat loaded. Because I've got rid of the AP ammo, it automatically loads heat at the start of the game. So I usually press 3 to change the HE ammo. but one game I forgot. And I hit a couple of tanks that weren't heavily armoured tanks, so it was a bit hard to tell, but it did the full sort of 350 damage on both of them. So the heat shells are definitely quite effective, and like on that T29 at the end, I really should have been using heat shells, and we would have probably done substantially more damage. So yeah, it's a little bit expensive, but I think it's probably worth it against in Tier 7 matches. Alright, that's it guys. Thank you for watching my review of the Pz.Kpfw.IV. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more reviews and gameplay, please subscribe to ReginaldESQ. Have fun.